Hello. So today I'm going to be talking about the unsustainable debt levels in the economy. This is specifically regarding the US, but it also applies to other countries at the minute, such as the UK, a lot of European countries. Start off with basics. So over here with the working people, over here we have the government. So people all work, which raise tax dollars, which goes to the government. Simple to understand. The government spends money on literally everything, okay? It's everything. And the government, since has spent more money than they've taken in through the tax every year since 1994. No surplus. This is now a huge national debt levels. I believe it's about 34, 35 trillion at the minute. So just like how any normal regular person, you would, let's say you have a credit card debt, you keep having to pay interest on that debt to keep it going. Let's say you borrow money for a mortgage, you don't just pay back the principal, you pay back interest as well, depending on interest rates. So at the minute, there's 35 trillion of debt. And they're paying $1 trillion of interest. Now, the reason this is such a big deal is because they're kind of in a bit of an ultimatum at the minute. So they're not going to be in a surplus because, if we look at the president's big, beautiful bill that came out in the past few weeks, it's highly inflationary. There's no austerity does not work in modern America or any, it doesn't work in the UK either. I'm from the UK, so I understand this. Austerity doesn't work. They don't like to do it, so they're not going to do it. So the only other option is to spend money. They're still going to spend money that they do not have, so this will not change. We're not going to have another surplus like in 1994. So the deficit is going to increase. So this will get bigger. And so this, at the same time, increase. So this is going to keep increasing over and over, and it's like the compounding effect, when we think about investing, I'm sure the people who are watching this video understand how compounding works. Einstein called it the eighth the eighth wonder of the world, I believe. He called it a wonder of the world anyway, because it grows and grows and it gets quicker and quicker and quicker. So this is going to do the exact same thing. It's going to compound. And so, like credit card debt, it gets worse and worse over time because the interest increases. So $1 trillion, that's a lot. We're spending more than defense spending at the minute just on interest alone. So we're not even getting anything back for this. And this is going to increase at the same time. So the only way to be able to pay these is to basically print more money. They have to make money out of thin air because they don't have it. It's not backed by anything. So the inflation is going to increase at a more rapid level than we've seen before, just because they have to find money to pay for things and also at the same time keep regular spending in the economy going. So we've always thought of the inflation target to be 2%. That's what we're always told. Now, what I believe is going to happen is they're going to start saying, the target's now 3%, 4%, 5%. Because there's when were we last at 2%? Pre-COVID? It's not really a target anymore. We've not reached a target. Things have changed. So this is just going to be the new target. And imagine what this looks like over years. And bear in mind, 2% wasn't even, that was muddled with. It wasn't even the real numbers. I've actually started keeping my own inflation track year on year, because I'm out of the country. I'm in the UK for most of the year, so I come back once a year, and I buy. I'm gonna keep a track of things I actually buy. Jeans, a suit, fast food I go to, petrol, cars. Look at all the prices of things once a year, because I believe that's the actual increase. I mean, when you go to the supermarket, Safeway is an example in the US, and one packet of Uncle Ben's rice is $7. You've got a lot of inflation. I mean, that's in the UK. The same thing would cost 49 pence. So things are getting expensive. So I'm going to be keeping track of all this. But yeah, back to the point. I digress. So the new target's going to be 3 to 5% because they're not able to pay back the $35 trillion, and the interest is going to get even more. And the problem that they have at the minute is that bonds is kind of an inverse relationship between interest rates, typically, as it should be. So bonds go up when, so the price, so there's in the bonds, you have the principal. So let's say when a bond is issued, it's worth $100, 5% interest rate. So you get five. That's the yield. This is what you get. So you'll get a $5 yield every year. If people start selling the bonds, the price will go down. So let's say the price goes down to $95. Now the yield is going to be higher if you buy it. So you're going to get, I don't know what the maths is, 6-7%, something like that, in that range. So that's how bonds work. So everything in the economy is based almost on the 10-year yield. And at the minute, I believe that's sitting around 4.5% yield, which is high. And the reason this is different this time is because they've been cutting interest rates, which should increase the price of bonds and lower the yields. But the inverse has been happening. So over the past around year or so, there's been a couple of rate cuts. I remember last summer specifically. I don't even know if they've done any since. But the price of bonds the price of bonds have gone up, which shouldn't have happened. And the price of people are selling bonds and they're going down, and the yield's going up, which should not happen. It should be the opposite happening, which is kind of why it's such a big deal and why it's so different this time. So, really, the Fed has, Donald Trump, the president, has been asking and telling the Fed they should be cutting rates. But what's that going to look like? Because the reason he wants this to happen is because they have to roll over a lot of debt this year, and it's going to cost billions and billions and billions of dollars. They could save while repaying this if the Fed cut the rates. But at the same time, what would this look like? I mean, look at this, remember? This is going to be a lot higher if they cut interest rates. I mean, and it's just going to be asset bubbles, basically, if this happens. It would kind of be like COVID, how the price of crypto, Rolexes, anything that had value was going up. I think that's what it would look like if they start cutting again. But yeah, they're just in a big ultimatum at the minute. I recommend everybody go and watch a guy called Luke Gromen. Just look him up online on YouTube. He's got his own YouTube channel, but specifically look for somebody interviewing him because he's the greatest economist out there. I'd love to speak to this guy sometime, but I think he's just spot on for everything, because when you hear him talk about all this, everything just points inflation. That's basically, if you dumb it down, that's what he believes. And from an investment standpoint, what would benefit from this? He believes, gold and Bitcoin are the only two things, the two things that would significantly benefit from just huge inflation, which I definitely agree with. And I think a lot of people at the minute are thinking this, just because it's a tried and true method, gold, and then, Bitcoin, they just hold their value. This Bitcoin specifically, there's a limited number of Bitcoins out there. And, gold, you have central banks buying them. Just everything at the minute points to inflation. And yeah, I just wanted to make this video to kind of, it might not be the best quality, but just to kind of give an idea of everything and to look back on in a few years to see, because I definitely think we're going to be heading towards this more 3 to 5% target, just because there's no way we're getting back to 2%. I don't see it happening. But yeah, thank you for watching, and yeah, take care.